to this very special summer solstice giving day event. Thank you, Maitreya, for those beautiful sounds. We will be hearing much more from Maitreya later. And just thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you haven't done so already, please chat in your location and where you are tuning in from. We would love to hear where you're coming in from. I'm already seeing some from Colombia, Atlanta, Brazil, Idaho. So just really, really lovely. Welcome, everyone. And my name is Andrea Livingston. I am the Associate Director of Engagement and Partnerships here at the Institute of Noetic Sciences. And we are recording this webinar, and the video will be posted on our website later today. And we're sharing that link in the chat right now so you can rewatch or share the recording. And we're also broadcasting live on YouTube today. So hello to everyone who is tuning in on our YouTube channel. It's great to have you with us. And as you all know, today is ION's Giving Day, and this is a fundraising event, but it's also more than just a fundraiser. It's a time to come together in community, explore bold new frontiers of noetic research, and celebrate the light we each carry in our interconnected world. And as a scientific nonprofit, IONS relies almost entirely on the generous support of our community through memberships and donations. So we are so deeply grateful for all of you who make this work possible. And if you're not yet a member, today is a perfect opportunity to join us. So membership not only gives you access to hundreds of hours of exclusive video content on noetic science and consciousness, as well as online and in-person member events, but even more importantly, it allows you to play an active role in advancing the global transformation of consciousness. So any gift of $60 or more will unlock access to these membership benefits. So you can learn more at noetic.org/give. So let me just give you a little overview of our program today. We will have some different experientials throughout our time. A guided meditation by IONS fellow Michael Ryoshin Sapiro, and the uplifting music of Maitreya Wolf, who you'll hear more from later today. You'll also hear from reflections from our board chair, Claudia Wells, and President Thomas Brophy, and they will be joined by our scientists, Dean Radin, Arnaud Delorme, and Helané Wahbeh, for an exciting dialogue exploring noetic sciences. And we have 3 special guests from our IONS board who will be with us sharing their stories today as well. So we're delighted to have them here with us. So let's dive right in, and maybe just inviting everyone to take a nice deep breath together as we're beginning to settle in here. And maybe just tuning into what brought you here onto this webinar today. Maybe it's the presenters. Maybe it's joining together with this global community of like-minded people who are really working towards shifting the paradigm. Maybe to celebrate the solstice. So whatever it is that brought you here, just warm, warm welcome. We are so grateful you have joined us for Giving Day today. We are going to begin our journey with Maitreya Wolf, who will be leading us in a solstice invocation. Maitreya Wolf is a musician, transformational counselor, medicine guide, and earth mystic. So Maitreya, it is such a pleasure to have you with us today, and passing it to you now.
Hello and good morning. Thank you so much for welcoming me into this space. And hello and good morning, blessings, good day to everyone joining us from all the places you are. I invite you to go ahead and close your eyes and take a nice, long, slow, deep breath into the lower belly and feel your way into the reality of the solstice. Solstice being an ancient word meaning sun standing still. And it's a time when wherever you are in the world, you get to bask in either being as close to the sun as you're going to get or as far from the sun as you're going to get in the turning of the year. And you get to bask in the fullness of that bhav, the feeling of that tone, that time, the tone of that time. And for us in the northern hemisphere, we're in summer solstice time, and for you in the southern hemisphere, you're in winter solstice time. But being that this is a giving day moment, we're leaning into the summer solstice aspect of being with the sun's boundless generosity. And a poem comes to mind, attributed to Hafez, that says, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. And look at what happens with a love like that. It lights the whole world. So today, as we're moving into this concept of generosity and giving and supporting these kind of works that we really deeply value in the world, that explore the potential of the human endeavor to move in a more beautiful direction for us all, let us rest into the sun in the center of our heart and its boundless generosity and care for the flourishing of the world. So give yourself a moment to really breathe into that blessing, the generosity of the sun that lives within us all and is life-giving as its true nature.
Maitreya, for that beautiful invocation into the generosity of the sun in our own hearts and in the world. And thank you for opening this stage. And now I'm really delighted to have Karen Renfro. Welcome to the stage. For Giving Day, Karen serves as the ION's acting director of advancement, and she has truly been the spark and catalyst for ION's Giving Day, really helping to carry this momentum forward as we celebrate all the ways this community is making an impact and can continue to make an impact into the future. So please join me in welcoming Karen to the virtual stage.
Oh my gosh, thank you all for being here and participating with us and sharing your energy with all of us. Today, we invite you to be part of something greater, our first ever Giving Day, a moment of unity, intention, and purpose. And every donation made in May and June will be matched dollar for dollar up to $100,000 by our IONS Board of Directors. And with your help, we help to raise $200,000 by June 30th. And we're already well on our way thanks to your generosity. At IONS, we believe in the profound truth that humanity rises and falls as one. This vision is at the heart of our mission and resonates through the voices of our global Noetic network. We are a small and mighty team with a big mission to awaken a shared consciousness and deepen our understanding of what connects us all. In a world that can feel increasingly divided, we are choosing something different: connection, compassion, collective transformation. Your support today and always is more than a donation. It is a message that you believe in our shared humanity, in a future worth building, and in unseen possibilities. IONS has been exploring for over 50 years, and many of our founding visionaries have now passed the torch to you, to all of us, to carry that legacy forward. Whether you're giving for the first time, making your yearly donation, or adding a few extra dollars today, your contribution magnifies the collective energy that makes transformation possible. As we approach summer solstice, we ask you to send your good intentions and goodwill into the field. Share this moment, grow our community, and remember, when we come together in purpose, we are unstoppable. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Karen. And we're putting that link into the chat now. Thank you for those words, Karen. Incredible. And we are going to continue opening our space and deepening by inviting one of our IONS fellows to the stage to guide us in an opening meditation. So we are absolutely delighted that we have Michael Ryoshin Sapiro with us today, who is an ordained Zen Buddhist monk and poet, clinical psychologist, psychedelic psychotherapist, author, and meditation teacher. So welcome, Michael. Thank you for guiding us into an opening experience.
Oh, my pleasure. Hello, everybody. You can see and hear me? Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is a chance for us to ground together, to do a practice together, and hopefully this practice will illuminate some of the darker corners in the world right now. And so if you are comfortable closing your eyes, I suggest doing so. You're welcome to keep your eyes lowered and barely shut. Whatever's comfortable for you. I like closing my eyes because we can feel the inside of the body when we do that. So as a group, let's take a slow, deep breath in and sigh. Feel that sigh in the body. Let's take another sigh in. Inhale. And a sigh out. And feel your body's response. Bring your mind's attention inside the body and feel the outline and shape of the body, the position and posture of the body. And begin to breathe slowly and deeply through the nose into the belly. And back out again from the belly, out the nose. Bring your mind's attention inward and feel the body breathing. Feel the expansion of the inhale and feel how the body rests on the exhale. Feel the sensation of the whole body breathing. Feel the tingling of the skin. And feel the air touching the skin. Feel the presence of your body, the energy of the body. How it radiates into the room around you. And feel the space of the room around your body. Breathing and feeling the body. And just for a few moments, bring your attention to the heartbeat. The heart beating in the chest or the throat, behind the eyes. Feel the sensation of your heart beating. And bring your attention up now behind the eyes to the infinite space of imagination. And in that space of imagination, visualize a mountain range and a valley. Picture a valley surrounded by mountains, perhaps snow-capped peaks. Imagine looking down into the valley. And in that valley, imagine the place you live. Even if it's not normally surrounded by mountains, just picture your city, your town, a village. So now your place of living is surrounded by mountains, protected. And as you look down from above, imagine the sun shining from you down to the place you live. The place you live basking in sunlight, coming from you, looking down. See yourself swooping down from above into your place where you live, the city or town or village. And imagine walking the streets, radiating light. Imagine greeting people. Some are smiling, some are sad, some just living their lives, but they're all greeted with your presence, a lightness. Walking through your town or city or place, imagine people turning to greet you and feeling joy, lightness, peace from your own presence. Moving past shops and places of business. Maybe there's rivers in your town. Just move your light through the place you live. Touching schools, banks. Bring the light to every corner of the place you live. A light that is yours and everybody's. And now imagine zooming out from where you live, going back into the sky, looking down, and zoom out of that valley itself and see the globe of the earth. And imagine points of light on the earth from every one of us practicing here. If we zoom up into space looking down, we see points of light that we are creating together. And let that light, those points of light, connect and start to brighten across the globe. Bringing light to dark corners and places that need it most. And pulling away even from Earth. Feel the vastness of space around you. The quiet, infinite space. and rest in that space of quiet. Just rest. And here together, let's take a slow, deep breath in. Exhale softly. A small, gentle smile on the face, upturned lips, relaxed eyes. And without losing this embodied presence and light that is within and without, gently open the eyes. I'd like to invite you to write a few sentences about your experience. Anything goes. Hard to visualize. You saw it all. You felt something. You didn't. What was your experience? And spend a few moments just writing a few words or sentiments. Let us know what that was like for you. What did you feel? What did you notice? Cells are dancing. There's a sense of oneness, tingling. What was that like to bring light to where you live? Could you sense people's reception to that? The receiving and giving both. This is something we can practice daily. Radiating this kind of presence in the world is what we need, and doing it together actually makes a profound difference, bringing light where it's needed. And thank you so much for sitting together and doing this, and I really do hope it expands out everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, the giving and receiving light. And thank you, everyone, for your comments here in the chat. It's really beautiful to read
Mhm.
what your experience was. So thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you very much.
And now I'm excited to welcome two of our incredible IONS leaders to the virtual stage who will deepen into today's celebration. So we have Claudia Welss, our IONS board chair, and Thomas Brophy, our IONS president. Claudia and Thomas, it's amazing to have you here, and I'm passing it to you now.
Thank you, Andrea. And thank you, Michael. I'm feeling emotional. And I want to start by offering our compassion to all those who are the most affected by the increasing violence in our world, while recognizing that in a paradigm of fundamental interconnectedness where there's no other, everywhere is impacted by violence being experienced anywhere. That's also true of the light that we just generated. It's an intense time to be alive. It's full of peril and promise. And we've chosen the seedling imagery for IONS Giving Day very intentionally. One of our newest team members, Nicole Franco, kindly shared this quote with me from the book Resurrecting Venus. For a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must come completely undone. The shell cracks, its insides come out, and everything changes. To someone who doesn't understand growth, it would look like complete destruction. Today, our world can seem to be coming undone, to be on a path to destruction. The meta-crisis we're experiencing today is an interconnected set of systemic failures, so interconnected that they can't be teased apart, so interconnected that they amplify each other. And in that way, it's a crisis of crises. But ultimately, as our IONS founders recognized, it's a crisis of consciousness. And since our founding by Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell's iconic epiphany in space about the oneness underlying all life, IONS has spent the past 50 years investigating consciousness as the missing key to transcending our time of crisis and discovering our true potential as human beings. When we understand consciousness not just as something that we have, but as something that we are, not just as something that's in us, but as something we are in, the hidden potential of humanity can finally emerge from its shell. And that may be the evolutionary purpose of this planetary near-death experience. Because the seed doesn't grow despite breaking apart, it grows because of it. And as IONS emerges from our own transformation, about to approve a new and bold strategic plan, we are so excited to be with you and celebrate the deepening role that IONS will play in helping ensure that our collective breakdown leads to a collective breakthrough. And I trust that some of what you hear today will affirm that founding legacy. And I invite Thomas to provide some opening comments, please.
Thank you so much, Claudia. That was very beautiful. And welcome everybody. I want to welcome everybody too, as well, to this IONS Giving Day special event, our first ever IONS Giving Day event. And a special thank you to Claudia on this Giving Day, because I think it's fitting to note that Claudia is one of our biggest supporters at IONS and challenge matchers, and as well as being an extraordinary leader as chair of the board and partner with me in executive leadership. So big gratitude to Claudia on this Giving Day. So I'm really delighted also that we're able to do this on summer solstice. We're going to do this, we're doing this on summer solstice. And this solstice theme fits so well with IONS. I'm going to tell a story in my 2 minutes or less, brief story about an obelisk and the solstice. So I'm going to show just one slide as a background, if I can share it right. Share correct screen. And then make it presentation slideshow mode. Okay. So the ancient Egyptians marked the start of the new year around the summer solstice. Actually, the heliacal rising of the bright star Sirius, the first sighting at dawn of Sirius, which in the ancient times in Egypt happened around the summer solstice. That accompanied the life-giving, sustaining flooding of the Nile River, and it marked the festival of the new calendar year for the ancient, very ancient Egyptians. The ancients were highly attuned to man's connection to the cosmos. Ancient man's effort to track and count the solstices, the equinoxes, and the cycles of the stars was the true origin of mathematics and science. The ancients were also attuned to the subtle noetic connections of man to cosmos. It was that noetically informed cosmic science of deep antiquity that informed the origin of our Western tradition, Pythagoras, Plato, and so forth. They actually studied in Heliopolis, Egypt, the center of the learning center of the ancient world. And this is symbolized by a huge Egyptian obelisk that stands today in the center of St. Peter's Square in the Vatican. That's the obelisk in the center of the image of the photo that I'm showing. The obelisk stood in ancient Heliopolis which is now Giza, Egypt, next to the pyramids. The learning center, ancient Heliopolis, was the learning center of the ancient world. Pythagoras and the early Greeks, they went there to study, like a great university. When Alexander conquered Egypt in 332 BC, one of the first things the Greeks did, Alexander did, was to haul the huge obelisk that was at Heliopolis and the books of Heliopolis to found the city of Alexandria and the famous library of Alexandria. After Rome conquered Greece in 37 AD, the Emperor Caligula moved that obelisk from Alexandria across the Mediterranean Sea to install it at the center of the Circus Maximus in Rome. Then, in 1586 AD, the Pope, Sixtus V, moved the great obelisk up the hill in Rome and installed it at the center of the Vatican, St. Peter's Square, where you see it in the image there, where it stands today, marking the alignments of the equinox and the solstices. The founding fathers of the United States in this Independence Day season, Juneteenth yesterday and Independence Day coming up, they were also enthralled by the ancient Egyptian civilization, and the Washington Monument in DC is modeled after this obelisk. So that obelisk, I think, is a fitting symbol for ions today, reconnecting humanity with the lost spiritual and cosmic wisdom of the ancients through the vision of modern noetic sciences. We are, in a sense, the modern Heliopolis. Okay, that's my brief story, obelisk and the solstice. So now I'm absolutely delighted to introduce our very distinguished board member, Mark Goldberg, who's going to say a few words for us. I'm going to stop sharing.
Great. Thank you, Thomas. And thank you all for joining today. My journey with ions began back in 2016. And at the time, I had never heard of ions. I had a mainstream background, went to Princeton, worked in investment banking in New York, was advising technology-focused companies in Silicon Valley. And I was convinced that life was random and meaningless. And there was no reality to anything that people would call spiritual or religious. I thought that was all superstition of the past. And then in 2016, I came across a whole bunch of research that I never knew existed. And I thought I was decently educated, and I couldn't believe that there was peer-reviewed research on the science of telepathic abilities or mind-matter interactions or precognition, knowing or sensing the future, phenomena like that, which totally blew my mind and really shifted my whole life. So for me, ions has had a major role in my own life pivot, which has led me down a path of leaving my job and writing a series of books and exploring the nature of reality. And that's why I have been so enthusiastic about serving on the board of ions and supporting the organization. I joined the board in 2019. And I also want to say a few words about the scientists at ions and how brave they are, because in traditional academia, this sort of research is considered to be taboo, where if you even talk about psychic abilities or life after death, for example, or channeling, that is basically shunned. So it takes a lot of courage to decide to study these phenomena. And fortunately for ions, as an independent organization, we're able to study the frontiers of science freely, but that requires funding. And so much of the traditional funding goes toward mainstream ideas about the nature of consciousness. And it typically presupposes that consciousness is just stuck inside of our skull. That's where the majority of funding is going. And I think that is starting to shift, however. In my mind, at least, there was a major event, which is a new podcast called the Telepathy Tapes, which recently reached the top of the podcast charts on Spotify, even ahead of Joe Rogan, for example, which to me signifies that there is a shift in consciousness collectively where people are now at least open to asking questions. That podcast looked primarily at nonverbal autistic children who could read their caretakers' minds, but it also featured ions and Dr. Dean Radin, our chief scientist. And there's much more receptivity now in 2025, even versus 2018 when my first book, An End to Upside Down Thinking, came out. So I think there's a lot of momentum. It's a very exciting time for ions, and I want to thank all of you for your support.
Thank you, Mark, so much. And yeah, we have to see lots of hearts around the telepathy tapes in this moment in time that Claudia mentioned about what we're experiencing in the world and also the light that is coming forward and the open-mindedness. So thank you, Mark, so much for your words and all for the work that you're doing in this area as well. And before we begin our panel discussion, I'd love to just celebrate a few key achievements from our incredible research team. As Mark was saying, there is so much research out there, and our peer-reviewed papers continue to be gold standard for demonstrating our scientific rigor. So collectively, our team has published over 390 peer-reviewed papers, which really disseminates the results of this consciousness research out into the world. And you'll see there that we have well over 13,000 participants who have gone through our IONS Discovery Lab, which is the largest study in the world investigating transformative practices and their effects on interconnectedness, extended human capacities, and well-being. And one final thing I want to highlight is our citizen science meditation study with Muse Headset, where we're recruiting 2,000 people in this large-scale project to help advance meditation research. So there's just some incredible momentum from our science team. And I know I personally am always so inspired by the research and what we're discovering there. So let's hear from them directly now. I'm happy to welcome onto the stage our panel for today. You've already met IONS President, Dr. Thomas Brophy, and Board Chair Claudia Welss. And joining them are three of IONS scientists, IONS Chief Scientist, Dr. Dean Radin, our resident neuroscientist, Dr. Arnaud Delorme, and IONS Director of Research, Dr. Helané Wahbeh. So please join me in welcoming this extraordinary panel. And I'm going to pass it off to Thomas to start us out. So Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Andrea. So yes, I'm really excited for this part of our program. And we're going to have a brief roundtable panel of our ION scientists asking each other questions. And I'm delighted to be able to start us off by asking a question of our ION's Director of Research, Dr. Helané Wahbeh. So, Helané, are you ready?
I'm glad to be here.
If you could fast forward 50 years into the future, what discovery do you hope humanity has made about the nature of consciousness?
This is an amazing question, and actually something I think about quite a bit, because my personal practice is to envision the world that I see, that I want to manifest in the future. And so when I think about that, what I would like to have humanity embody is that we are all one, that we are individual expressions of this oneness, that we are intrinsically interconnected. And yet it's not just a cognitive knowing, but it is an embodied knowing. And from that knowingness, there's a natural do no harm action. We just live much more in harmony because we are feeling that interconnectedness with others. And from that also arises less boundaries and less need to create fences and boundaries that separate us and create divisiveness from each other, not just humans, but the entire world and even beyond that. And naturally from that, our innate capacities of non-local consciousness, especially telepathy. So imagine 50 years from now, we have learned to experience telepathy and to be able to communicate with each other without words. And from there, there's an inability to lie, an inability to obfuscate, and that we are much more directly engaging with each other. So I'm really excited about seeing a future where that is completely embodied.
Wonderful. So a follow-up question on the other side. What's one myth or misunderstanding about your field that you wish you could correct?
Yes, that's also a really great question. And I think for me, what rises to the top is the misconception that there hasn't been any research done in this. When people first learn about it, they say, oh, well, why aren't people doing research on it? Why isn't anything been done on this? And that's completely false. There's been research, formal scientific studies done on this for at least 100, 150 years. There are large bodies of evidence for many of the major non-local consciousness experiences, like knowing the future or perceiving distant targets or being able to see or sense things that aren't shown in the physical world. And it really speaks to the paradigms that we're in, that Mark was alluding to, this idea of all that is physical versus this post-physical idea that there is more than the physical, that there's this non-local consciousness or non-physical world that actually is a reality that exists. So that's really important, I think, for our future work, is to educate people about this past research that has already been done, that IONS and others are building on to even go further with that research and expand it even more. Thank you so much, Thomas, for those amazing questions. And I'm excited to now ask Dean Radin, our chief scientist, some questions to build on from there. So, Dean, what is the most mind-expanding insight you've gained from your research into consciousness?
Thank you, Helané. Actually, I'll mention something that and expand something that you already talked about, which is the assumption of materialism or physicalism. So for me, it was actually an ontological shock shortly after graduate school to discover that the way that we had been taught, you're taught as an engineer or a scientist, it is never mentioned that you're working under a set of assumptions. And yet we're working under a philosophy called materialism. And as it turns out, after starting to do psi research, even in graduate school, I realized that while materialism is an extremely effective way of viewing reality, and it's the core in science, it doesn't account for everything. And that has very significant consequences, because materialism as a philosophy, which it is, gives rise to the idea of nihilism. Like there's no purpose to anything, the universe is random, you die, that's the end of it. If that philosophy is wrong, or even slightly wrong, then to mix metaphors, we have been barking up the wrong tree and we're about to go over the cliff. Because if your philosophy that drives the engine of civilization is off a little bit, it could make us go extinct. And we're seeing signs of that happening. So it behooves us as scientists, as scholars, as people, to get a better sense of what is a more proper worldview that takes consciousness into account. And as we've seen in our own studies, if consciousness actually does influence the physical world, which seems to be the case, we had better know that and actually do something about it.
Yes, absolutely. That whole idea of intention matters. And so if it does, how do we use that to our benefit? So what do you think is the biggest scientific or cultural barrier to exploring consciousness today?
Well, on the scientific side, it's not so much about consciousness, because there are a lot of people studying it from lots of different directions. But I think that because Western science is so locked into a materialistic way of thinking about reality, that it's the theoretical explanations for what we're looking at. We need something which is not simply doing extreme violence to existing equations. We need to revise them because all of the equations are never perfect. So we're thinking, as part of one of our IONS new initiatives now, to add something to existing equations, which allows for consciousness to be in the equations, meaning of the physical world, and to actually do something. So that's, and then be testable. So that's what we're working on. The other question is about culture. So the resistance that we see to these kinds of things are primarily within Western culture because it's materialistic. Other cultures around the world are completely on board with it. It's like not a big deal. So when I give talks, for example, in India, even in academic settings, there's no question that these phenomena exist. Well, that's a cultural difference. So part of the goal then here is to begin to reintegrate cultures so that we can see that actually everybody has a pretty nice piece of the puzzle, and we start putting them together like a jigsaw puzzle, we'll get a better picture of what's going on rather than just relying on one type of philosophy.
Yes, absolutely.
So
Thanks.
now it is my pleasure to ask questions of Claudia. So Claudia, the first question, what is one of the things you're most excited about today?
Well, maybe there should only be one question because my answer is longer than your answers. But I think you already know, Dean, what I'm excited about is the expansion of citizen science and how it can help create what ION's founding president, Willis Harman, called a new quiet revolution in science. Because since the previous scientific revolution, science has been largely off limits to non-experts, making us consumers rather than contributors to the kind of knowledge that shapes our lives, the health of our families and our planet, and even civilizations. And I think that it is obvious that we're seeing the consequences of that passive consumption right now. And maybe that's why we're seeing citizen science starting to bloom outside the normal places, like outside of astronomy and environmental research, and into noetic sciences research. So what becomes possible when, in addition to thousands of ordinary citizens photographing clouds for NASA, thousands or even millions of people are actively participating in exploring the true nature of consciousness? IONS believes that the relationship between consciousness, and particularly collective consciousness, and the world around us can be scientifically studied. And as noetic citizen scientists, we have the opportunity to contribute to really critical new scientific understandings for dealing with the kind of complex social problems we're seeing now. So besides helping shift the scientific paradigm, another really important thing that citizen science does is it restores a sense of agency to the public. Instead of feeling powerless as we watch the world seemingly fall apart, we can help the world fall together in ways not removed from our normal daily lives. For example, one of our guiding statements from Willis Harman, who said, given the interconnected nature of all minds, affirming a positive vision may be the most sophisticated action any one of us can take. Okay, we've been hearing that for decades, but if it's true, scientifically, it's actually something we all need to understand and put into practice urgently, because one of the greatest dangers in unprecedented times like ours is acting with yesterday's logic or yesterday's science. That's what's still running the world. Through citizen science, through democratizing science, we can change that. We can build broad grassroots foundations for a new kind of science, a more inclusive science that includes consciousness, and a new kind of grassroots activism to help create the global mind change movement that is central to the IONS mission. So you heard about the Muse study, and we're building other opportunities, not just to help generate more data using citizen science and more robust data, although it will do that, but to, as I said, generate a sense of personal and collective agency and help us meet this moment by addressing our crisis of consciousness And we think people are ready to participate, and so is IONS. So thank you for that question, Dean. I think you already knew what I was going to say.
Yes, I suspected it. But it's okay. So given the citizen science initiative and the value of it and importance, then what in that area is of your greatest interest now that IONS is involved in?
Well, you know this too, because it's very intimate to you. It's the Global Consciousness Project, because I believe it has the potential to create that quiet revolution as a global, scalable social experiment. And I think maybe what I'll do is just share one of my favorite metaphors for the project, because well, Dean, you've spoken about the project a lot, and it's easy to learn the more technical parts, but the metaphor that I like is one that I came across during the early days of the pandemic. And it was an article in the MIT Technology Review called "The Real Bailout is Taking Place on GoFundMe," which I think we all know is a crowdsourcing platform. And the article said that in the absence of any meaningful government response in the United States to the pandemic, GoFundMe was watching their platform turn into the country's default social safety net as the only dependable option to people self-organizing and supporting each other, because there was no support from the government. So when I read that, I thought, well, what if Global Consciousness Project could function as a kind of crowdsourcing platform for the self-organizing power of love and compassion as the most dependable option for global transformation? You know, what if we could scientifically demonstrate through GCP2 that love and compassion are not just human values, but are an observable force in nature? As I was saying in the introduction, this may be why evolution is nudging us to a breaking point, so that we discover the power of human love and compassion as an energetic power, not necessarily the behaviors that it motivates us to do. And anyway, GCP for me is just one of the clearest, most concrete examples of how IONS is not just studying consciousness, but helping shape the future through it. So I encourage anybody who is interested in learning more about Global Consciousness Project to go to the website, which is gcp2.net, I think.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing is GoFundMe was quite successful. Perhaps we need a website that says goloveuss.com or .net or .us. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dean. That's a great idea. Well, I want to ask Arnaud a question, because, you know, the GCP2 and citizen science, one of the things that I think is really important about them is that they give the opportunity, they invite a real experience that helps convince people about, you know, these phenomena that ION studies. Sometimes we need an experience to convince ourselves that something is real, that we're being told isn't possible. So Arnaud, I would love to know what's the most convincing psi experience that you have ever had yourself?
Thank you, Claudia. And so I want to backtrack a little bit why I came, you know, and will transition to what kind of experience I found the most convincing. I can backtrack back to 5th grade when I was in, I'm from France, I was in the Paris suburbs, and I had this epiphany. I want to know why I'm here. And in my upbringing, that meant, well, then you want to be a brain scientist. You want to understand the brain. So fast track, 15 years later, I was in Francis Crick's laboratory. So to discover of the DNA at the Salk Institute doing my postdoc, and Francis Crick had this consciousness hypothesis, the astonishing hypothesis, which is the physicalist hypothesis. And that didn't click with me. The idea that consciousness doesn't exist for me was not an option. Consciousness is, because experience is primary. And I believe many people are here because of that intuition. There is more than the purely physical. And to show that there is more than the purely physical, psi experiments, are ideal. And so I had met Dean at a conference, at the Science of Consciousness conference about 18 years ago. And I messaged him, what you're doing is intriguing. Can we work together? And at the same time, he wanted to analyze some brainwave data, and he was going to use, because brainwave is my specialization, he was going to use the software I designed. So this was like a synchronicity moment. And, of course, scientists can be very self-important, me included, and every scientist thinks they're better. And I believe, psi results wouldn't hold up under scrutiny. But after more than 15 years of being involved with ions, I realized it's not the case. And also I became a much better scientist in the process because I wanted to apply the best possible method. And by method, I mean statistical method, because I want to know, I want to know for myself as well. So I became a better scientist. And so now I come back to your question, which is, what's the most convincing experiment? And we publish paper, that's our job. But when we publish paper, it's very often double-blinded. So we don't talk to the subject doesn't talk to us, we talk to other people, etc. So at the end, we look at tables of statistics that tells us, well, there's 1 chance in 1 million this is possible. But the most actually, and it's contradictory, but the most convincing experience are the one we have in person. And even though it's not science, it's just people telling you stories of what happened to them or experience you've had yourself. So it's not science. And that's from my perspective, why ions so important, is science and experience. So what's most convincing to me is the experience. And I remember specifically, we were working with mediums, bringing them to the lab, and they were doing at lunch, so we're doing this double-blind experiment, but at lunch they were doing blind reading. They wanted to convince us that they were in contact with entities. And there was this visiting professor from UC San Diego that she had no idea would be here. And she did a reading that personally blew my mind. She told him, I see your dad is collecting cars, your mom is playing piano, and he said that was perfectly accurate. So it's these moments which are the most convincing to me. And, on these notes, I'd like to transition to Thomas. And Thomas, we had Google DeepMind visiting ION's headquarters. So, tell us a little bit about that. What was that about?
Yeah, that was really wonderful meeting. And one of the directors of Google DeepMind, they contacted IONS because she had seen Helané and other ION scientists, I think Dean, speaking on Gaia TV about consciousness and science of consciousness. And so I think it really says great things about what this director at Google DeepMind is doing. That she said, oh, well, I want to contact those people at IONS and learn more about consciousness and how that might impact what they're doing with the artificial intelligence development at Gemini, which is the Google DeepMind AI version. And so she came with her partner to our IONS office in Novato and met with me and Arnaud and Gary on the ground in Novato and Helané and Dean and Claudia online, and we had a really great meeting, and it was really impressive, and we talked about possible collaborations, and in this sense. So we hear so much about artificial intelligence, and it is a real revolution that's happening. But we don't hear much about artificial consciousness. And we don't hear much about thought, science, real rigorous thinking and science that goes into, is there a consciousness aspect to AI, the AI revolution? And IONS has a huge amount to offer in that regard. One way, one aspect is, of course, the ontology of what consciousness is and how that could possibly connect with or not connect with artificial intelligence. We don't think current AI based on classical computing can be conscious, but it's certainly extremely intelligent. In some ways, it's superhuman in intelligence. So understanding what is that difference between that kind of intelligence, that category of intelligence, and consciousness. And consciousness and things like love and compassion, and so that scientific help in understanding the ontology around that, and how to maybe incorporate that into like quantum computing versions of artificial intelligence computing in the future. Scientifically is the kinds of projects we're talking with that director at Illuminating Mind about. And then also there's the problem of the AI revolution that's happening, in that ions, the noetic aspect and the consciousness aspect is kind of being ignored. And that could be a huge problem for us when AI becomes super intelligent, and with us not even knowing if it has consciousness, and not even knowing what consciousness is, and if it would be devoid of love and compassion, or if we could somehow incorporate love and compassion into AI. And so we need to understand what consciousness is, and how it could possibly connect to AI in the future to start to address those problems. And they're coming at us fast with this AI revolution. So that's back to you, Arnaud.
Oops, sorry, I was muted. And another question I want to ask you is, psi research, a lot of scientists think psi research is useless because psi is just impossible. What can ions do to change that?
That is a great question. And as you guys know, that's one of the centerpieces of our new strategic plan that Claudia mentioned, and that we're in process of bringing out in IONS, is developing frameworks. Like IONS' first president, Willis Harman, talked about this too. He said, there is lots of research that shows about psi's reality, psi phenomenal reality, but we need a framework that helps, a framework in which we can understand how it works and that it works. And that problem that's often stated like that out in the scientific community, well, psi research is useless because psi is just impossible. That mindset is still so prominent that we can take a actual part of our strategic plan going forward to address that, to reverse that. So we have all the psi research data that shows us that psi is real. But we don't have yet a really good ontological framework that's just a general framework for thinking about how it is real that's generally accepted. We have lots of candidates, but there's no generally accepted out there in the scientific and general scholarly and general population community that allows people to think and understand and say, yes, psi does happen. And so we shouldn't ignore all the psi research and the importance of consciousness in our reality, and consciousness as we the love and compassion part of consciousness as we go forward in this revolutionary time that we're in. So, Andrea, how are we on time? I could talk a long time on these.
No, we're actually perfect on time. And I just really appreciate the scientists, the leaders, for bringing in all these perspectives, conversations, and where we're really at the edge of the noetic sciences and what brought us here. And as Arnaud said, we have both the science and the experience here at IONS, which I really think makes IONS so special. It's the inner experience as well as being able to do this rigorous research, and just really loving everyone's chats coming in here. We had some questions about what is consciousness, which I know Dean answered in the chat, and just a lot of inspiration. So thank you to the panelists. Let's show some love to all of those who are speaking. And yeah, thank you for those words. We still have some exciting things to come. So we are going to transition a bit more into an experience. So just to allow what you've heard, any inspirations that have come to you through listening to our speakers and meditations for today. And as we know from our research, our individual and collective intentions matter. And we're not just observers, we are participants in the unfolding of this world. So with our global community here together, we want to invite you to bring your intentions, your visions and dreams for the world, so that we can really amplify our shared vision and let it radiate outward with the solstice today. It's been what we've been doing already, so we're just going to continue to sink into that, and we're going to invite back onto the stage Maitreya Wolf, who is just an incredible musician, and she's going to share a song with us. And so you can feel free to go into a meditative state or to chat in your intentions and dreams for the world as we are co-creating this together. So Maitreya, great to have you back with us, and passing it to you now.
Thank you. I want to just take a moment to check the volumes, because there was some concern about the volume. So here I am. Okay. So this song, Field of Plenty, my name is Maitreya Wolf, everyone. Hi, thanks for having me here. It was so beautiful to hear the shares from all these leaders and participants in the IONS experience. I was really, really touched by the care for our shared life that I heard in everybody's speaking and in everybody's explorations, just that you've dedicated your lives to these explorations in such a beautiful way as a service to the collective. It's really nourishing to hear, so thank you for that. My way of doing that is music and counseling and facilitating experiences. And this song in particular, Field of Plenty, came to me when I was sitting by a river watching birds fly in this beautiful, bright, sunny day, and feeling the wars going on all around the world, and just being in that space of holding all of that reality all together, and what that asks of me as a being, me as a participant in the life of the world, and what that asks my consciousness as a participant in the life of the world, and how the grace and freedom of my life can nourish this great reality that we're all in, you know, the unraveling that is the reorienting towards a world of beauty for all we aspire. So as I'm singing this song for you, I just invite you to really deeply immerse in your prayer for the life of the world. What is your prayer for the life of the world? I'm just checking one last time before I start that the sound is okay. Yeah? Okay. So, deep breath, and go ahead and exhale. And then deep breath again. What is your prayer for the life of the world? Let it be nourished right now. Here soft of wild sky, and the birds fly around me, their songs rise above me. This beauty is the heart of the world. Beauty, love, and violence have flowed through me. Heights of ecstasy and the depths of shattering grief in this garden evolution. I know love's a solution that makes this a world of beauty for all. And remember, everyone is a holy one. Every facet of creation created of the same stuff, and every moment choosing what song will be sung. Choose well and wisely, my love. Choose to sing songs of love that grow a field of plenty. No bombs here, no war here, no one dying cold and in fear here. Let's make this a world of beauty for all. Stay close to earth, remember that simple truth. All life is interwoven here. True flourishing is mutual. So now let's sow the seeds of these sweeter days. Let's bring our hearts together and create these new ways that grow a field of plenty. Sweet water, healthy, wild, and every being known as sacred kin makes this a world of beauty for all. Field of plenty. Take heart, beloved, it's now, for the time has come. This metamorphosis can unfurl her wings to the sun, and this garden is magic. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Let's make this a world of beauty for all. And remember, everyone is a holy one. Every facet of creation created of the same stuff, and every moment choosing what song will be sung. Choose well and wisely, my friends. Choose to sing songs of love that grow a field of plenty. Stay close to earth, remember the simple truth. All life is interwoven here. True flourishing is mutual. So now let's sow the seeds of these sweeter days. Let's bring our hearts together and create these new ways sweet water, all the wild and every being known as sacred kin makes this a world of beauty for all. Let's make this a world of beauty for all.
Guiding us into the world of beauty for all. Incredible transmission, and really also beautiful to see all the comments coming in about how they're contributing, how each of you are contributing. So thank you, Maitreya.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
Thank you, everyone, for chatting in your vision and what you are co-creating here in the world with us all. So really incredible to feel our collective energy coming together. And we still have a few more exciting things coming for today. And I couldn't be more happy to introduce to you Liz Huntington. Liz is an IONS board member and has been a passionate contributor to IONS for the past 11 years. We are so grateful, Liz, that you have contributed to IONS in all the ways that you have. And I know you are here to share a little bit of your story with us today. So welcome, Liz. And for some reason, there we go. Okay, try again.
I was involved with Sabre Graduate School, Humanistic Psychology, and the work of Dr. Stanley Krippner. I was involved with the Institute for Health and Healing at Cal Pacific Medical Center on integrative medicine. And I knew about IONS, and it was sort of floating out there. But even for these groups, IONS was still way out there, just on the bleeding edge. And I didn't really take it seriously until I had a back injury. And this, what happened to me was my spine was disconnected somehow, but probably more importantly, so was my spirit. Physical therapy and rehabilitation was grueling. And so I listened to hours of IONS lectures. I just found them. I was a member and I downloaded them. And that's how I got through that. And what emerged were a couple of things. Our mind-body connection is a powerful relationship, and doctors do not have all the answers. Probably a lot of you can relate to that. But what I found in addition to that, and more importantly to that, is that the whole story of who we are is incomplete. And you're hearing a lot of that theme from other members on this call today. So if our story was more complete, that we are material and we are energy, and how the interplay of those work together, we are very, very powerful. We have huge capacities for healing, and this interconnectedness between us, which we're just understanding now. What does that actually mean for the world? And what kind of world? Oh, there's my little alarm. Looks like I'm done. But I want to envision a world where people actually understand how this material and energy work together, so that we can solve big problems with deeper wisdom and with joy. So I give to IONS really to give back for all that IONS has given me. And I want everyone here to realize the same thing, that you are way more than you think you are. And I want you to consider all the possibilities as you think of today for Giving Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz, for sharing your story. Just also incredible to hear how this work can ripple. I love what you said, that we can come with deeper wisdom and joy to really solve the problems of today. So thank you so much, Liz. And I am happy to welcome back Karen. to the stage who came on at the beginning to share a little bit about what Giving Day is. And then we'll be able to hear from Claudia and Thomas and one more special guest from our board. So Karen, passing it to you now.
Wow, I feel so much great energy. To our beloved Ions community, thank you. Your generosity on this special Giving Day has moved us deeply. You've planted seeds of trust, intention, and hope, seeds that may grow into trees whose fruit you may never see, yet whose roots will nourish generations to come. We are honored to be stewards of your gift. Your support inspires our small, dedicated team to grow boldly towards the future, guided by purpose, curiosity, and care. May your giving return to you as healing, joy, and connection, and ripple outward to a world in need of all three. With our deepest gratitude and love, my thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you for those beautiful words and for really instigating us to come together to give in service of the world that we really want to see. So thank you, Karen. Beautiful. And I'm really happy to bring back Thomas and Claudia to our stage for some closing remarks. So Claudia and Thomas, passing it to you now.
Thank you, Andrea. So I think I'm going first in this part, and then Claudia. And I'm just really inspired by the giving to Ions, the support of Ions, because Ions itself is so inspiring to be able to be connected with at this time in history. And it's so important. The world needs what Ions has to offer, and Ions' mission. The AI revolution, the artificial intelligence revolution that is happening, like we mentioned, it's all about intelligence, and nobody's talking about consciousness relative to this revolutionary process that is going on. Artificial intelligence revolution is going to get smarter than humans in whatever thinking capacity very quickly. And we need groups like Ions focusing also on the noetic aspect, the consciousness aspect, and being able to bring that to the, hopefully bring it to the artificial intelligence revolution. And the consciousness revolution in science itself, the consciousness revolution in science itself that is going on, it's underway. Science is in process of bringing consciousness into scientific models, how reality works. And Ions, it needs leadership. This revolution also needs leadership of groups like Ions that bring the noetic perspective, the 50 years of noetic history from our founder, Edgar Mitchell, to this consciousness revolution in science, and to help the consciousness revolution in science actually happen, and happen in a good way that can support and enliven and be good for humanity in a loving and compassionate way. Consciousness does have an effect in the world. Consciousness does have an effect, a very important effect in the world. But there are so many scientists and general people still have that perspective that psi phenomena and consciousness generally, the world is deterministic. Physics says so, it doesn't say so. But consciousness doesn't have an effect in the world, but it does. So we need groups like Ions that are showing and developing models for understanding and bringing those models for understanding how consciousness can have effect in the world and does have effect in the world, and how it's so important for us humans to engage with that process, to bring that forth into the world. And so like our founder, Wells said, and we're engaging with now, and also in our new strategic plan, we need a global mind change that can support humanity's movement into the future. So I'll just pass it now to Claudia for a few minutes.
Thank you, Thomas. I just saw a chat from George Noble, and I want to echo what he wrote, because he wrote, "Thanks, Thomas, for your awesome leadership. here and your remarks and reminders now. Because I was also going to start my remarks by thanking you for bringing your leadership to IONS and sharing that I am also really inspired by you, our IONS team, the amazing team who brought this together and brought us all together, by our amazing board members, and thank you to those of you who joined us on the program today, and to our amazing community, both if you've been here forever or if you're new. This is the very first IONS Giving Day, so we're all here for the first time in this particular context, and it's just wonderful to be together. And I always want to end with by invoking our founders, and in this case, it's Edgar, because, you know, when Edgar came home from the moon, he realized that outer space isn't the final frontier. It's actually inner space. And IONS has been working at that frontier of inner space. With your partnership, we intend to remain on, as Liz said, the bleeding edge of that frontier. Well, one of my favorite quotes is, "Pain pushes until vision pulls." Also really resonate with Liz around the joy, the role of joy, and with Michael about the role of light, and everyone else who brought that ethos in, because suffering, you know, humanity is still evolving, and we don't know that suffering needs to be a part of our ability to evolve. We're standing at an evolutionary crossroads where external systems that we've relied on, economic, political, scientific, they've all revealed their limitations. So rather than being pushed by pain, let's be pulled by a greater vision in order to, Buckminster Fuller put this best, convert humanity's tendency toward oblivion into a realization of our potential. IONS was founded for that. It was founded to reconcile science and spirit and create a new scientific paradigm that can accommodate a fuller range of human experience and potential. And so just thank you all again for being our partners in that work, and for all you do in your own ways to advance that reconciliation.
Thank you, Claudia, so much. And we have one final special guest, Azim Kamisa. We are so glad you've been here. Also a dedicated and passionate contributor to IONS and on our IONS board. And so we would love to hear your story about your relationship with IONS and why this matters now. So passing it to you, Azim. Oh, you are on mute. So let me just.
Thank you, Andrea. Namaste and greetings, and amazing, amazing 90 minutes. And I am so inspired. And I wanted to share that there is a place in all of us that is of love, that is of truth, that is of beauty, and that is of peace. When we are in that place, we are one. And that's not difficult to get. Growing up in the Eastern world as a Sufi, I do get that. And I met IONS in 1999 when I was honored with the Temple Altruistic Award. And was love at first sight. I thought, this is my tribe. And I've stayed involved with them since then. I've attended the conferences, heard the lectures, spoke at some of their conferences, was in front of the board 10 plus years, and it has been an honor to serve. Because I do believe that, and I think Claudia talked about this, that science and spirituality have to come together and merge. And ions is at the frontier of doing that. And as we move forward the next 50 plus years, I do believe that the external circumstances that we are facing is because of our internal circumstances. And in the words of Yogananda, that when every human feels inner peace, the default outcome will be world peace. So thank you for your support. Give generously, because there is nothing more important than peace. There is nothing more important than peace. There is nothing more important than peace. And ions will get us there. Thank you very much, and namaste.
Thank you, Azim. It's so inspiring. When we have inner peace, we will have outer peace. Just such a beautiful message to end on. And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who has been here with us throughout this special Ions Giving Day. I just am seeing some lovely chats here. I wanted to read one chat by Letitia that said, "Thank you for this lovely program. It's been wonderful to see the faces of the people who are at the core of the work. I was a member in the 1990s, and today I have rejoined the community." Wishing you a very successful fundraising event. So I saw that and so many beautiful chats about how you all are supporting this work through donating to Ions, through engaging in the conversation, through doing your own work in the world and bringing this paradigm of interconnectedness into the world. So just so grateful for everyone who's here, so grateful for everyone who has contributed to this program. And yeah, this research, these programs, this conversation wouldn't be possible without everyone here. So thank you for your support. And I invite you on this Giving Day and on solstice to continue to bring your intention into the world, whatever it is that you are contributing. And whether that's a donation, sharing ions with a friend, or doing your work, we are so grateful for you. And we invite you to go to noetic.org/give to make a gift if you are able to today. And I think that's it for now. Thank you, everyone. Again, so much gratitude. And we'll be seeing you all again very soon. So thanks for now. Bye, everyone.